I've been watching the maps as the Secretary of State's office has tracked. This is the state treasurer's race, and you can see where Lynn Rogers was strong was those populous counties, Riley, Shawnee, Douglas, Johnson, Wyandotte counties, leaning his way in Crawford County. Is this an upset? Well, a few things happened in the state treasurer's race, and if you look back historically at the state treasurer's office, I was thinking back to several years ago when Dennis McKinney was appointed state treasurer to fill out that term after Lynn Jenkins was elected to Congress. Dennis McKinney had served in the state legislature. He was from the Greensburg area, got a lot of love and respect for leading the Greensburg area through the recovery from the tornado. But when push came to shove and he was up for election against Ron Estes, he was not elected state treasurer. So a little bit of that perhaps happening tonight with Lynn Rogers. He was appointed to the treasurer's office. You'll recall he was Governor Kelly's running mate for her first term 4 years ago. But state treasurer Stephen Johnson had a lot of publicity from that really close GOP primary, gained a lot of name recognition around the state simply from that primary campaign against State Treasurer Karen Tyson. Did that continue to resonate against voters as they were looking at the ballots tonight? Let's go back to that map. And like I said, you could see in the state treasurer's office as we come back up to state treasurer right here on the map, you can see Stephen Johnson with that wide swath of support around the state. And the maps in the races that we've been talking about, again, Attorney General, where it still remains too close to call. The blue counties, again, are where Chris Mann has had his support tonight. Riley, Lyon, Shawnee, Douglas, Johnson, Wyandotte, and Crawford. The rest of the state is red. However, those are the states, those rural areas that still have votes left to be counted. Is it enough for Chris Kobach to make up? And actually, Chris Kobach now just pulled into the lead as I've been talking. They now say the county precincts reporting here are 114 of 114 in the Attorney General's race. So that would mean currently about a 500 vote lead for Chris Kobach. That just happened right now as I was talking. A 500 vote lead for Chris Kobach. This race, folks, I don't think is going to be called tonight because we still have all those provisional ballots. And keep in mind, there are still mail ballots to come in. If they were postmarked by 7 o'clock tonight, we now have until Monday for them to come in because of the Veterans Day holiday. So we may be talking about this Attorney General's race for a few more days. So that one's going to be hanging out there. And then the other one that we're still watching tonight, this is the governor's race. This one also saying the county precincts are in, as long as I didn't click on a county. And let me come back up here and just make sure that I'm still on the statewide numbers, and I am on the statewide numbers. We have all the counties in, and governor, lieutenant governor, and this one, Laura Kelly with the lead, 50% of the vote to 47% of the vote for Derek Schmidt. Very close race, but in this one, Laura Kelly is hanging on. It's about a 30,000 vote margin lead for Laura Kelly right now. That's a pretty comfortable lead, even though it looks like only 3%. That's close, but 30,000 votes would be a lot to make up through that provisional and additional mail-in voting process. So the governor's race right there looks like Laura Kelly may be comfortable in saying she has a second term. We'll see what the campaigns say because they have yet to be talking yet tonight.
Yeah, we're just waiting. So, you know, some surprises tonight, some others that maybe not so surprising.
And there was a very strong publicity campaign pushing the yes vote on that sheriff amendment. And people were asking, well, what does voting no mean? Does that mean we don't elect our sheriffs anymore? And in full effect, the short answer is no. You would still elect your sheriff. Right. But now what this will do is make it more difficult should a county want to change that in the future. So, for example, there have been some casual discussions in Topeka and Shawnee County about merging law enforcement, much the way Riley County already does. And by the way, folks in Riley County, Manhattan, this does not change anything for you. You are grandfathered in, and your position with the unified Riley County Police Department and your director will not change because of this amendment. But if Shawnee County wanted to go ahead in the future and say we want to merge and change how we do things, now it would not be allowed because of this constitutional amendment.
And the Kansas Association of Sheriffs actually supported that amendment too.
They did.
They were pushing forward out there. So we're going to actually go off the air.
Nelson Jones was a feisty, fearless 11-year-old growing up with two younger sisters in a small town in Dickinson County. No one could have imagined how their carefree childhood would be shattered. His sister shared very vivid, very difficult memories. Growing up in the small town of Hope, Kansas, Nelson Jones was every bit the typical boy.
He liked the outdoors, he loved to fish, baseball.
Melissa Bowl was the middle child. She recalls a big brother who was competitive.
See who could go the lowest, who could jump the farthest, who could run the fastest.
And fearless.
We would climb on top of the watershed, and he had tied a water hose to a tree, and we would climb on top of the shed and swing down from there like Tarzan. I mean, he always had crazy, wild ideas.
He was brave.
He was.
Brave enough that on October 27, 1990, Nelson insisted he could stay home alone while the rest of the family took a day trip to Wichita.
He had begged my mom to stay home. So he was 11, and he'd never stayed home by himself before, and he was supposed to hang out with somebody around the neighborhood, I think.
I think they got home around 6 p.m. Saturday evening. Nelson wasn't at home. There was a school carnival just a few blocks away at the school, so the family assumed that he had left and gone to the carnival.
We went up there and could not find him. Nobody'd seen him, so we went back home.
While Melissa's mom got on the phone to call neighbors, her younger sister went into Nelson's room.
And she came out and she said, "Mom, I found Nelson and he looks all beat up." So we all went into the bedroom, and he was kneeling like you would to pray on the bed, and his upper half was laying on the bed. And I just remember he looked very pale and blue. Mom walked around the side and she grabbed his arm and to feel for a pulse, and I just remember her saying, "Oh God, Dennis, he's dead." And my stepdad ran up barefoot to get the police officers.
Nelson had been strangled. Current Dickinson County Sheriff Jerry Davis was a year into his job as a road patrol deputy and assigned to guard the scene. Years later, he'd look further into the case as a criminal investigator.
There were several witnesses that saw him playing with people and biking around town. They were all interviewed. It was kind of a community where everybody got along, everybody knew each other, and everybody trusted each other. So this was very shocking for the community at that time.
Shocking and devastating for a little girl.
And I was terrified. I was scared of the dark. I was scared to turn 11. I was afraid I would get killed too. To be in your own home and not feel safe in your own home was pretty traumatizing.
How hard is it to not know who did it?
I go in waves. Sometimes I'm really angry because I think about how it changed our family and the dynamics and all the pain that it brought.
The house is gone now. Melissa's mom passed away, but among the photos and a poem her mom wrote about a child at Heaven's Gate with big blue eyes, Melissa still finds hope. Nelson was chosen as the 3 of Hearts in the Kansas Cold Case deck. It's a new effort to get tips in unsolved cases by featuring them on playing cards. Melissa says she's grateful Nelson is not forgotten.
I often wonder what life would have been like with him here. What kind of brother would he be? What kind of uncle would he be to my children, you know?
Nelson was an innocent victim, and he deserves to have his story told. His family deserves to know what happened. Right now, Nelson would know what happened, and the person who killed Nelson would know what happened. And right now, those are the only 2 leads we may have. And Nelson's gone. He can't speak for himself, so hopefully the evidence will speak for him.
I think I'd want to know why. Why did they do that? And maybe tell them what it did to our family, like the consequences of those actions, that choice that that person made. I'd like to know that they have a conscience, and I hope someday that they'll confess and seek forgiveness.
If you know anything about who killed Nelson or any unsolved case, call the Kansas Bureau of Investigation at 1-800-KS-CRIME. Melissa Bruner, 13 News.